animal protein's huge, is a major limiting factor in this country, as it is in all third world countries. So just the fact that you can just introduce just a small amount of animal protein, like for example, real quickly, a normal kid 10 years old needs 38 grams of protein a day. Well, that's just a little over an ounce. Well, out of that 38 grams, it'd be awfully nice to have 12% of that animal protein. That's all it takes. And the reason animal protein is important is because it provides the kids with the sulfur-based amino acids, which they don't get, which is the ones that help brain development, and you need it at an early age. So our mission has targeted that. Two things: we're going to provide animal protein, then we're going to provide it to those at most at risk. In other words, we're trying to get it into kids from kindergarten to 4th grade. Water in it. But the big thing we did here, this pond supports our grow out system by taking nutrients from the chicken house and the hog house and providing the green water source. And all this green water is phytoplankton. And then the phytoplankton, the manure out of the chicken house, is what produces the phytoplankton. And then you have from that, then how you doing? From the phytoplankton, you have other marine animals like zooplankton that is consuming that, and then the fish consume the marine animals, the zooplankton, whatever. But what this basically does, then, it supplies us an area where we can affect the water. It's easier to get the water the way you want it in a large pond than it is in a small pond, and you can control it better. But this system here is sustainable in that as long as we got the chickens profitable, which we do, the manure from the chickens will provide enough fertilizer for the pond for us to keep the fish going.
Basically, the only cost that you have to produce this is the chicken feed.
That's right, the cost of the chicken feed, and then the labor from we have farm labor, but you know, right now everything comes out of this pond, out of our whole production system. 95% of it anyway is going back to feed these kids. Everything, there's no administrative costs, there's no travel money goes into our budget. Everything is strictly to either feed a kid directly or indirectly by building a pond. We got this laying house here in which we run around 400 to 500 birds, and then but what we try to do then is keep that many in here where we can provide enough nutrients for the pond. But it's a good project for us also to provide protein to the kids along with the fish. So our goal is we'll probably get up to 600. Keep about 600 going all the time. Tilapia are what we call mouth brooders. They take their eggs and their little ones and put them in their mouth, and that's how they brood them. And they're very prolific. They start breeding when they're just about 4 ounces. So our goal was, and Auburn University agreed with me, that we felt like if we could harvest the fish before they started breeding, even that 4 and 5 ounce range, then we would be about as efficient as we could be. If you look in terms of a third world country trying to figure out what's the best bang for your buck in terms of protein, for any square unit of land or area, it's the most efficient use of your land would be with the pond, with water, to raise fish. And that's why that can supplement all your other projects too. The fish project, the effluent or the runoff from your fish ponds are have a lot of nutrients in it. You can use those nutrients to irrigate with. So I mean, if you look at the whole system, all your nutrients coming from the chicken house and the hog house going into this green water pond. This green water pond is providing the phytoplankton, which is just a microscopic algae. The fish aren't eating manure, they're eating grass. I mean, they're eating the phytoplankton. It's like you go out and fertilize a pasture for a cow. That's the same principle. And then the zooplankton, which is another microscopic marine animal, is eating the phytoplankton. These tilapia are, to a degree, filter feeders. In other words, when they swim through the water, their gill rakers collect these zooplankton, and that's what they grow on. I have a series of 16 grow out ponds that we went on ahead. We've done a lot of different things here, including conservation practices, before we get to the ponds. If you notice right along the edge right here, this is not uncommon, but this is called vetiver grass, and we try to show the Haitians too that there's ways to stabilize your ground and to keep your topsoil, then you'll be more productive. So we got all this vetiver grass planted all around our ponds, so when we do have these heavy rains, we don't get our levees washed away, and then it keeps all of our topsoil and everything. We've got basically a collection box here where we have where all of our water coming out of the big pond, or whether it's out of the spring, we can divert fresh water into these ponds, or we can divert green water into them. And the reason for that is that if in fact, say we have an excess of green water, which will cause you a problem if you have if you have too much nutrients in it, then in the morning when you don't have the sun shining, you'll have an oxygen depletion, which will cause you a problem. So we have the capability here of putting fresh water in our ponds or green water. A while ago, we're taking, we're collecting the small fries, what we call them, just very small fish, just as soon as they, after they're let out of the mother's mouth. And then we take them down here and we put them in here and we feed them. This is the only bells and whistles we have going here. And we're using a medicated feed here. It's not a genetically altering feed or anything of that nature, but basically all we're doing is feeding them a high level of testosterone, steroid, basically to change the sex of them. And what reason we're doing that is then we can put all males, and we do this for 28 days, it takes a small amount of feed, and then we can take all male fish and put in their grow out ponds, and they grow out more efficiently and bigger, and you can control your reproduction. That's been, like I said earlier, that's the problem we need to get to the next level, and that is we need to control our reproduction a little bit better. We need to be able to get our brood ponds where we have highly productive females and males in the pond, and that's our next step. You have to crawl before you can run. I don't even call this a humanitarian effort. I tell people, say, well, you're a humanitarian. No, I follow Jesus Christ, and he said that in Matthew 25, inasmuch as you do this to the least of our brethren, you do it to me. That's the only reason I'm here. That's the only reason Elmer Redden's here. It's the only reason Fish Ministry's here. But we also realize that Christianville by itself, trying to do all the wonderful things they're doing, they shouldn't have to worry about feeding. So that's our goal, is to provide them with our expertise is in the fact that we can raise protein. If you look right here, all this water right here is coming out of the spring we just talked about earlier. Each one of these ponds has an independent water supply, so we can control. We don't want water flowing from one pond to the other. If you got a disease in this pond, you don't want to spread it to the next pond. So what we're doing, we designed this system, which is kind of unique. We've got a valve at each pond that has this is all gravity flowing water. None of this water is being pumped. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have any electricity. So everything we've done here, we've engineered this project where we can get a gravity flow. Well, we just took what we had and made it work. This is the basic size we're trying to harvest. And they're good and fat. And those are the size we're after right here. Our ultimate goal for Fish Ministry, like I said, is to provide animal protein and food to the Haitian children that we're dealing with in these school systems, and in so doing, show them that the love of Christ is there doing it. I mean, that's why we're doing it.
In conjunction with Christianville.
Right, and our goal is in conjunction with Christianville, Haiti Active Evangelism, and then over in Jeremy we'll be working with a group called Haitian Health Foundation, His Seed Sower. So it's kind of might seem a little fragmented, but it really isn't. It's all kind of tied together. That's what we need to see, right?
Yeah.
So if you harvest the pond 2 or 3 times, then you'll grade the fish, basically the little ones will keep going through. We'd like to have them just perfectly uniform. When you went in, when you harvested a 4-ounce fish, but that's not going to happen. But if you notice here, these are fairly uniform. The fish are in good health condition. They've got a lot of flesh on them. And for a Haitian kid that hadn't had any protein, that's a good deal right there.
You got a lot of fish in there.
Yeah, especially where it should be. Yeah. And that's the way it is in all the ponds. I mean, that's...
They're ready for the school.
Yeah, those are ready for the school.